We bought that from Featherman Equipment, plug and play for processing poultry. It's got everything you need inside the 8x40 foot trailer. And so we were the first people to get one of those.
Within 3 years, we went from revenues in the $200,000 range to over $1 million.
We bought it in 13, and in January of 2014, it burned to the ground.
Oh no.
At that point, Bruce and I really needed to decide whether we were going to stay farming. We looked at the finances and realized that that was not financially viable for us. We just kind of, whittled away to what we know we do really well.
We saved over $12,000 in labor. It was a $60,000 investment to get the first 4 houses.
How have you seen the progression grow? And I know we talked about progressions in chicken tractors, but when it specifically ties to the processing side. You are Beth, and this is Maple Wind Farm.
Yep.
You and your husband Bruce, who we'll meet here in a few minutes, have an amazing farm here, but specifically you have a USDA inspected poultry processing facility on farm that you do your own chickens, but you also do other people's chickens, right?
That's right.
So tell me how this whole farm got started and how you ultimately got into the processing side.
2024 is our 26th season of Maple Wind Farm. We started at a hilltop farm about 12 miles from here in the town of Huntington, and it was started small, did some chickens, some layer hens, a few cows, because it was on a slope. And it really wasn't great for moving poultry. It wasn't very flat. It wasn't great for making hay. Wasn't great for raising vegetables. We farmed out there for 20 years, but we were in the process of looking for flat land to raise broiler chickens.
Okay.
And so we found the farm that we're standing on. It was a defunct dairy farm, and the folks rented it to us. And we started moving our chickens there. The big barn, it was about an 8,000 square foot barn.
Wow. And
down in the basement of it was a chicken processing area that we learned from another guy that was raising turkeys there. He kind of brought us in, and we raised our chickens and we processed those in that space. As time went by, our needs for raising more and more broilers, we established markets. We were doing them ourselves, but then we realized, hey, we need USDA processing.
Why?
So to be able to sell to restaurants.
Okay.
And across state lines if that was the case. There was a mobile slaughter unit in the state of Vermont, which was really cool. You could schedule it, and it would go around to different farms, and they would process your chickens right there in a trailer, do their business, and then leave. And then after a couple years, that went away. And so we said, well, we've scaled up our business and we need to do something about it. Yeah. So we were the first farm in the country to buy what's behind me here. It's called a plant in a box. And we bought that from Featherman Equipment, and it's a plug and play, everything you need inside the 8x40 foot trailer. And so we were the first people to get one of those, and that way we could stick with our USDA status. So we increased our number of of chickens, from 1,000, because that was the limit before things are inspectable.
Okay.
And then at one point we were doing upwards of 20,000 chickens on the farm in one season.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but the really cool thing about this place is that we do our own birds on Mondays. We process them and package them the next day. And then on Wednesdays throughout the season, we schedule other farms. So we love working with other farms. We love providing the services for them to be able to have USDA processing. And it works for us because, we've got a full team here working 5 days a week. We don't raise enough birds to keep our crew busy every day of the week. So it feels really good to, be able to offer those services. And we do turkeys as well.
How many chickens are you raising a year this year?
We actually pulled back a little bit, so we'll probably be 14 to 15,000.
Okay.
The reason why we did that is when we were scaling up, we had some out-of-state wholesale accounts, and we realized that that was not financially viable for us to raise so many birds and get a lot less for them. Checked ourselves and we said, you know what, if we raise less and we sell more at direct to consumer, which we do. We have a farm stand here.
Yeah.
We have a robust home delivery service that started during COVID.
Oh.
You know, we sell at one farmer's market a week. We do online. We have an online order system. So we are really focused on direct to consumer right now, which is flipping the script, because years ago it was 3/4 wholesale and 1/4 direct, and now we're really on par. We're on track with flipping that to 75% direct.
What caused that flip?
Many things. The fact that behind us, standing in front of this beautiful production barn, right after we bought this farm through the Vermont Land Trust in 2013, I had mentioned earlier that we were renting it for a while because there's 35 acres of beautiful river bottom land. We could raise the chickens down there, use the barn for our needs. We were also raising vegetables at the time, so the barn had facilities for storage. Well, lo and behold, we bought it in 13, and in January of 2014, it burned to the ground.
Oh no.
Yes, it burned to the ground. So at that point, Bruce and I really needed to decide whether we were going to stay farming, and our community backed us. Some fellow farmers just about 20 minutes away, they just rallied and they had a big fundraiser for us because we didn't get much insurance money for it, for the barn. Bruce was looking for a outside job, and that never came to fruition. And our community says, we need your chicken, we want you to stay in business. So unfortunately, we, to build this beautiful facility, we incurred quite a bit of debt to do that. So that expansion made us to kind of figure out what financially makes sense for us to make the most money. So like I said, we're on track to, fulfilling that need to stay in business is to, sell most of what we produce direct to consumer.
That's awesome. Okay, so we can't go in because of the USDA requirements and stipulations, but let's talk about the fact that it's in a shipping container. So you said that you had the first one in the country. What were the pros and cons of that? Because I imagine that there were probably plenty of both.
There were. Well, one, that it got shipped from Missouri here on a flatbed trailer, so all we had to do was pour a slab and plop it in the right place. The good thing that I will add is that it's metal. So the barn that burned down that I mentioned, we were able to save this because it's metal. It just got charred on one side. So when the barn burned down, it went in 2.5 hours. 8,000 square foot, barn was left to nothing. We were able to, keep this. And when we built the barn, we built a new facility behind us. We married it. It was because it was just.
Can I go see how you did that? So we've got the shipping container here, and it kind of goes in to the building. And I went in there to go to the bathroom, and I could see through the door them working, and that was.
What's really nice is that it flows from the chicken crates to the kill area to the shackles. And then the birds never leave the building because they're on a roller.
We can kind of see it through that window. I don't know, am I allowed to peek in through the window? So it's got the rail that they move on. That's really cool. So let's pause for a second because Bruce is here.
Awesome.
So, okay, so now we've got Bruce here. And Beth, you said he's the plant manager.
That's right.
So you mentioned that this is the first one in the country. It's USDA inspected. You're processing your own birds, but you're also processing other people's birds. Bruce, what is it about this facility that, other than it being, mobile, is so unique?
Well, it's built into an 8x40 shipping container. It's designed to have a back to front flow right through the system. There's very little transport of materials between stations, so we save a lot of time and effort doing that.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if you have a big building, a lot of times people spread things out and they walk 10 steps to do the next thing.
Yeah.
And for us, you don't walk any steps, you just stand right there.
Yeah.
So it is a little tight. We do have windows in here for a reason, so get a little natural light in there.
So you don't feel like you're in a bat cave the
That's
whole
right,
time?
exactly.
Yeah.
It works really well for that. Right now, we're doing about 1,000 birds a day through this facility.
Wow.
That does not include packaging and parting and packaging.
Okay.
It's only slaughter into our air chill system.
Okay. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about your system after the harvesting side.
Right.
So you have air chill system, and then what happens?
Well, and then they get 16 hours by kind of a rule to get down to temperature. In an air chill system, you only get 4 hours in an ice water bath system.
Per USDA guidelines.
Per USDA guidelines.
Okay.
You got it. Some advantages and disadvantages there. Like, we could be packing on the same day if we used ice water bath, but we have limitations for wastewater. We don't have a lot of room to store wastewater, to put wastewater anywhere. We don't have a lot of ice making capacity here.
Okay.
Air chilling works really perfectly for us because we can do, we average around 1,000 birds a day, but we can do up to 1,300 or 1,400 birds in a day.
Wow.
And pull them into our blast chiller and let them cool overnight, and then we can process and package them the next day.
And by process, you mean like cut up?
Yep,
into
cut
parts?
up, package, we can make ground and sausage
wow.
and things like that. So it means, every time we fire up our slaughter system, that's a big deal. It's a lot of cost. It takes a bunch of people,
Yeah.
9 people in there. And we only want to do that a couple times a week. Doing as many birds as we can on those 2 days allows us to process it or to part and package the rest of the time.
How does that work with your employees then? And this could be a question for either of you. If you're only employing them 2 days a week, right? Mondays and Wednesdays?
No.
Okay.
We have a core group of processing people.
Okay.
And then we augment that with field staff for our big days. And we're rotating them in and out. We also have fulfillment and store management and farmers market. We have all sorts of things going on.
Gotcha.
So people do different jobs. So we have a space for everybody for the 4 days of the week that they work. So we
how
work
many
4/10s. We do not work 5 days a week. We work 4 days a week. Most
Okay.
people, and I not included. But it's a
true.
4-day work week. Pretty much every day here is a 10-hour, at least a 10-hour day. Sometimes more.
Yeah.
And we were finding that employees were burning out at 50 plus hours a week.
Yeah.
So we knocked it back to 4, and that's worked a lot better.
So how many people are you employing right now?
Right now, I think we have 18
Okay.
18 on staff besides Beth and I.
Is that year round?
No, that's May to November, and then in November, our seasonal staff are off right around Thanksgiving, and then we move on to about, last year we had 7 people, I think, on staff through the winter.
How does that work with retention in your employees and keeping that turnover rate low if you're having seasonal staff and full-time staff? Especially, I've heard in this area, it is kind of hard to get a good workforce going. So how do you handle that? How does that
work? It's challenging. We have a lot of folks that come to us from the University of Vermont. So maybe they go back to school. We're blessed that our culture is one that encourages people to, increase their wages as they come back year after year. We have a tight-knit community. People like to work here. And retention definitely in the farming community is challenging. It's hard to find housing, but we do the best that we can to support people and what they need to come back. I think this year we probably got 60% retention rate.
Wow, that's pretty good.
It does vary from year to year.
It's been a lot worse than that.
It's been worse, so
For instance, the 2 people on our kill side, they're both in their 5th season. And they keep going off and doing other things, and maybe even thinking they're going to stay somewhere else, and they're like, pretty good. And they'll probably pay me a little more money. And we work really hard at building a culture where people are not feeling like they're overworked. They're feeling like we're giving them a fair shake. We work really hard at training so they're set up for success and not being frustrated by, not having what they need to do their job.
Yeah.
We share a lot of information. We're doing some open book management where they get to see this is our P&L and this is what this is where the farm is at right now, and that, so they get to learn a little bit about the business of farming. And I think the biggest piece is that we have core values that we're doing a pretty good job of living by at this point. We're certainly not always successful in everything that we do, but I think our culture is one place where recently we've been very successful.
So speaking of your multiple pieces of the farm, do we want to go see the chickens on pasture? And we're going to go see them move. I think that's the coolest part.
Yeah.
All right, let's go see them move. Let's go.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Bruce, you said that what they're doing here is they're moving the smaller chickens from the older chicken tractors to these ones. Why do they do that?
These were just a little too small to harvest today, so we're moving them into this pen, which is kind of a mix of newer birds and birds that aren't quite ready yet.
So you don't always process at just 8 weeks. You wait until they're at a good size.
If they're too small, we're not gonna.
Okay.
You know, if they're gonna be under 3 pounds of dress weight, then it's not worth doing.
Yeah.
So we'll push them on, and we get our chicks in the mail. We've had some real stressful deliveries.
Who do you get them from? Do you mind?
Moyers down in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
But it's really about, you know, like on a day like today, it's 80 in the mid 80s. They're in a truck through the mail service. It's not climate controlled.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we've had a couple of times out of a batch of 750 chicks that we get, you know, 250, 300 bags.
Are you doing anything to like mitigate that, or are you looking for other motives? Because for us personally, we were doing that too, but when we were getting them earlier in the season, they were too cold.
Right. So they're either too cold or too hot.
Right.
Exactly. So we have problems on both ends of the season. We just actually came out of the best possible option, which was we used to get our chicks delivered.
Like hand delivered?
Well, they were delivered by the hatchery. They would drive them up, and they had enough customers up here that it made sense for them to deliver them rather than have the losses that happens through the mail.
Yeah.
Some bigger operations decided, oh, that's a great idea. I'm going to ask those guys to do that. And that kind of filled up the truck and wasn't anything left for us smaller guys. So now we're still getting them through the mail. But for 3 or 4 years, we got them delivered and they were here within 12 hours of hatch, which is
nice.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Like, that's the key to that lack of mortality.
Yeah.
Let's say you get a batch in and there's 200 or 300 DOA. The other birds are still alive and they're eating and doing their thing, but they were affected by the same stress.
Yeah.
And so you can have a lot of effects down the line from that.
And how many are you getting delivered at a time?
Right now we're getting delivered 750
okay.
at a time.
Okay.
In a batch.
And that's how often?
Every week.
Every week you get 750 birds?
For 24 weeks in a row.
Wow.
Yeah.
So at any one time, how many birds do you have on your farm? Like at one time?
Let's see. So we'll have 4 batches in the brooder. That's, what is that, 28? That's like 4,000 birds, right? No, 4 batches. No, four the 2,800 plus 50 each time. So that's another 200. So 3,000. 3,000 birds there, and then we have 6 MRCs out here. All of these are full, and that's another 3 to 4,000.
So you've got like almost 10,000 birds.
7,000, and then we have 1,500 layers, a couple hundred turkeys. So.
Wow. We are about, we're about to see them move.
Yes.
That's always an exciting part. Everybody loves to see these big giant things move on pasture. And we've only been able to see it once with Joe's farm.
Oh,
nice.
good.
So I'm excited to see it
He moved
again.
sideways.
We didn't get to see those ones.
Oh.
Yeah, they were on a whole different field, so we didn't get to see those ones. So Bruce.
Yes.
If you don't mind, can you walk me through like what they're doing?
Sure. So what they're doing right now is they're going to hook up onto our gravity wagon here. So we do it 2 ways. Sometimes we have a pallet bin that we bring over and we feed out of that, or we use these 1-ton gravity wagons. So he's going to back up and get hooked onto this gravity wagon. Lindsay's already been over here. She's already pulled the anchors because we anchor every day. We get big wind here.
Okay.
So we anchor every day. It's pretty easy to anchor and get them all set up. And then once they get hooked up here, she also pulls the water line, so we're not putting stress on the water line. And then we have a driver, who's going to be Ben, and a wrangler. And the wrangler goes in, helps the birds forward, pushes them forward, and communicates with the driver to make sure that we don't run over any birds.
So the chain hooks up to the gravity
So the
wagon.
chain hooks up to the gravity wagon.
Okay. Tell me about this piece of steel on the ground here. What's this?
So we built these MRCs ourselves. They're not a kit or anything like that. We bought basically a high tunnel frame from a regular greenhouse company, and then we outfitted all of this. But the way that we built this, it wasn't strong enough laterally to handle pulling with a chain directly to one point.
Oh,
so we
because
have
it would would like pull this foot
It would pull
in.
both these feet in and
yeah.
scrunch. So we built these tow bars, and this just stays right here, and what it does is it pulls right along the length of the skids.
That's a really good idea. And does it help too? I thought it was for pushing the pasture down or the grasses down.
It does kind of lay things down a little bit.
Yeah.
These guys don't really care a whole lot, but
Yeah. Ready when you are. Let's see it.
So actually, let's go around back and we can
be the wranglers. And you have the poultry net up too. Can you explain what that's for?
We get periodic predation even into these houses where the chickens are kept inside the entire time. And it's usually little things like weasels or skunks that can slide into all they need is a quarter inch. Periodically, we put a net around here and put a livestock guard dog.
And that's who?
And that's Cassie.
Cassie in here.
So these are our fancy.
I love it. The shakers,
Yeah,
the dumb
way
little
better than
shakers,
shakers, yeah.
absolutely.
Way better.
I hate those shakers.
Do you want to come inside?
Sure,
Okay.
yeah, let's do it.
Right now, this is our overflow. This is our overflow house.
Okay.
When we have birds that aren't quite ready, we'll put them in here and kind of mix them up, and we have a lot of feed space. Just be careful because this is going to move forward.
Because it's going to knock me off my feet.
Come on. Sure.
And they mostly all know what they're doing.
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like
and
they've
they're
done this so many
crazy
times.
for new pasture every time.
They love
Absolutely nuts.
it. Yeah.
They love it. And people have this story about Cornish Cross that they don't do well on pasture, and the fact is that our experience is that they do really well on pasture.
I felt the same way. I didn't think that they did terrible on pasture. You just had to make the move, right?
But we're not starving them to do that. They choose to do that themselves.
Yeah.
So she just gave the signal to Ben to say, hey,
we're golden.
we've done a length, and here we are. And now it's time to feed out and clean the waters and hook up the water, make sure all the water's working.
And you've just got the Plosson waters, the Plosson feeders.
Yeah. These work out pretty well. And as you can see, we don't have that many birds in here now, but it will probably at some point rise up to 700 or 800.
And it feels relatively cool in here. What's the tarp that you have on? Because I see the greenhouse plastic.
Right. So it's
But what's
greenhouse plastic with a black and white plastic over the top.
Okay.
As a shade cloth. And that's key for us. It just would be way too hot. Even with like 70% white plastic, it's just way too hot in here.
So you do greenhouse plastic, then black tarp, and then white tarp?
So it's a black white.
Like one side's black and one side's white?
Exactly.
I see. So the white's on the outside to the sun,
White's
but the
on the
black is on
outside.
the inside for us.
And the black is a shade. And this was just, normally we'll just put on one layer because it's only during the season. This had a layer on it, and we said, oh geez, we really need to put more shade here. So we just put another layer over the top rather than taking off the old one.
So what has been your evolution for chicken tractors? I feel like everybody kind of, wait a minute, what is this fancy dancy doodad you just did?
This is a height adjuster.
Okay.
Because the feed should be about at the average height of the back of the bird.
So it's looped through here.
So it's looped through here, and this is just basically a friction device that you can move this up or down.
Oh my gosh. That is ingenuity at its finest. Okay, sorry. Back to my question.
We have those on all of these,
Yeah.
so we can raise and lower them.
That is such a good idea. Okay, back to my original question. What has your progression been with chicken tractors? I feel like people tend to start out with like the Scovich tractor or a Salatin tractor, and then once you really scale up, you get into something like this. So what's your progression been?
Yeah, I mean, when we first started, there was, you know, John Scovich wasn't making tractors when we first got started.
When did you start?
1999.
Whoa.
Yeah,
okay.
So we're in our 26th season right now.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, we did a modified, of course we knew about had read Joel Salatin and all that stuff. And then we wanted to be able to walk in rather than have it be really low. So we built kind of, I guess you would call it what some people would say Scovich, but it predates that.
Yeah.
And we just bent conduit and made kind of a, basically the same shape as this, but only 10 by 12. When we decided to do this is when we got to pulling 50 houses a day. We decided it was time to move to a different housing situation.
That's a lot.
Right.
That is a lot.
This is a great, I know there's always controversy around different kinds of shelter. I think they all have their place. I did a cost-benefit analysis on this. In the first year of using 21 by 36 MRCs, we saved over $12,000 in labor.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a $60,000 investment to get, the first 4 houses, but it was such a huge, 2 people can move up to 600 birds in 10 minutes and have them all fed out, ready to go. And before, it was taking us the better part of 5 minutes to move 75 birds with 2 people. And you can move those with 1, but you're often, unless you're on perfectly flat ground, you can be chasing birds around. You have to then somehow get the feed to them as well, so you're having to load feed, bring it out. So with a gravity wagon for feed or a pallet bin that you're bringing there with a tractor or on the back of a truck, being able to pull these with 2 people and then feed them out, it's in my opinion, it's just a better situation.
Yeah.
And I do feel like, these are less, they do fly in the wind, but they're less likely to fly. The adjustability of size to let air and sunshine in, put shade on them. The water is supplied by
the PVC.
By PVC that's up on there and down to the Plesson waters. It's just, they have more space. I think in general, it's just a better shelter.
Yeah.
We've had situations early season where we've gotten 5 or 6 inches of snow. We'll drop the sides on these and bring in a little bedding. This is a perfectly ideal place for a 3-week-old. Stays a lot warmer. You get warmth from the ground that can be sealed up in here if you drop the sides down. It just works out.
So how many?
Just a better situation overall, in my opinion.
Yeah. How many of these do you have now?
So right now they're moving 9 of these a day. The 2 layer houses are the same size as this. Each of them is holding 750 birds with nest boxes. They also have movable fence attached to them, which was designed by 3 Brothers Farm in Wisconsin. We just learned about that this past year at the APA National Conference. Big time. You want to come and interview farms that are doing cool things. It's amazing. We instituted that this year, and the netting that you see that we set up here is running basically on 4-inch sewer pipe that just runs right over the ground.
I have seen that. I have seen that, yeah.
It's revolutionary in terms of how much time and effort it saves.
Yeah.
And it's really positive in terms of keeping the birds in and leaving the predators out.
Feels so good.
Oh man, it is nice and chilly in here. So we made it into your storefront, and this is where you've got all of your orders, your meat, extra things from other farms that you sell. So we've talked about your processing, seeing your birds on pasture, all of the things. And I've kind of been in this mindset, this moment lately that getting to a farm of this size, it takes time. Like
Sure.
when
Yeah, this
I was
doesn't happen overnight.
no, when I was farming, I was like, oh yeah, year over year, we'll like quadruple production and it'll be great. And I wonder why we got so burnt out. How has it been really working up and transitioning the farm to where it is today?
Well, it's not without, its own troubles. We would have big dreams and do a lot more than we're even doing now. We did maple syrup production, we had a sheep flock, we had 75 breeding ewes, and we just, similar to your experience, we would kind of think that we could do it all. We piled it on, and when we realized that, we look at the finances and realized that that was not financially viable for us, we just kind of, whittled away to what we know we do really well. We do pasture-raised livestock, our daily move operation, and then bringing the customers to our farm to really experience, have the connection with the farmer. We'd rather not put everything in a box and just say, see you later, have fun cooking this, which is why we still go to farmers markets. I love to talk to people when they enter the store, and it just warms my heart. If they've never stopped before and they're the first time customer, I get a chance to educate them about pasture-raised meats. We live in a beautiful state with many amazing producers, not only, including ourselves in that, but the array of products that are grown and produced here in Vermont are amazing, and we want to also celebrate the other producers. So you can see the shelves are filled with, I would say 75% of these producers we know personally. Vermont is just a strong state for local food.
Yeah.
And so when people come in here and they're amazed, we may not be the one-stop shop. You're not finding rice, you're not finding a tomato, you're not finding, a few other sundries, but you'll find unique items, and you'll know that you're, supporting a local farm. So over the years, have learned through trial and error. We also, by the grace of the amazing people that work for us, this store is not my responsibility. It's Abigail who works for us. She built this on her passion for local food, and we gave her the opportunity to, expand and grow this as it, made sense. We have a marketing director on the farm, and he works in conjunction with Abby to do promotions and emails and making sure that the IT works well here, because if we don't have a cash drawer. The thing that makes us a little different is that people come here to this self-serve stand and check themselves out on a kiosk, because everything in this store has a code and you can scan it.
No, I loved her answer, and I'm curious too. I had asked her how the progression has gone through the years, because when I was farming, I was like, oh yeah, we'll just quadruple our production over and over again, and it'll be fine and easy, and no wonder we got burnt out. You guys have been doing this for so long. So how have you seen the progression grow? And I know we talked about progressions in chicken tractors, but when it specifically ties to the processing side, how has that really revolutionized what you guys are doing here?
Well, chicken in Vermont is not a business. You can't do it as a business without having inspected processing. And so the progression was that the state had purchased a mobile processing unit for poultry that was inspected, and that would travel around the state and do inspected poultry for a bunch of different producers. The guys that ran it for about 3 years and said that it's not something we want to do. And the state decided, couldn't find anyone else to run it the same way. It's a tough business. It was really hard for them. They'd be traveling to a different place every day. It was a difficult business. They ended up selling that to another farm, picked it up, and they had no intention of taking it on the road. When that happened, that represented the loss of over 30,000 birds, local chickens, to the Vermont market. And we saw that as an opportunity.
Yeah.
So we said, okay. And at that point, we were primarily beef cattle. We had a large vegetable operation.
Oh, wow.
We were a whole different enterprise mix. And we made the decision, okay, we're going to put in a USDA poultry processing facility. Our centerpiece is going to be poultry, pasture-raised poultry. Pasture-raised, daily move poultry, eggs, broilers, and turkey. That was the evolution there, and we kind of grew from that. The first year that we had it, we quadrupled our production from 1,000 to 4,000. A barn fire come in there somewhere, but within 3 years, we went from revenues in the $200,000 range to over $1 million.
Wow.
But here's the key thing. Oh, if we bring in $1 million, we're gonna make so much money. Oh my gosh. The truth is that top line revenue has nothing to do with profit. It's pretty much, it's kind of a misconception that most people who are new to business, and that was us. We've never been really business people. Don't understand. It's not about how much money you can bring in. It's about how much money you end up with after all the bills are paid.
Yeah.
Right? And so so we went there really fast, and we had a lot of growing pains, and we didn't really understand how to go from really a mom and pop, very small business that was mostly Beth and I with a few interns to a professional farm outfit with people who really knew how to process and who really knew how to farm. We're still in that. We feel like we're still on that journey of figuring out how do we build a business that's really financially sustainable.
Do you think that that's something though that you always are learning?
Oh, totally.
Like it's just one of those things about life, right? Like you just year over year you just are learning things, right?
Yeah. So always, and I think that was once we had enough revenue that we could hire staff, and that would allowed us to focus on our business rather than working in our business. And that distinction is really important.
Yeah.
Once we could focus on our business, we started to make some really positive changes.
Yeah.
But again, we're not all the way there yet by any means. We're still working at it.
Yeah, I love that, and thank you both so much for showing me around and just teaching me about what you're doing. This is so cool, and I love your energy. I love just your farm in general. I love all the people that you have working for you. They're all so nice. This has just been such a wonderful tour. So thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Olivia.
We've had a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For stopping
Thank you.
by.
So on-farm processing is something that I feel like every small farmer really wants to get into, but has a hard time making that jump. And the ones that can make that jump, however they're able to do it, are able to not just push their farm forward, but then are able to help out the community in that. And so I love the fact that they saw the need and they acted. Because who wants to take away 30,000 birds from an area? That's a lot of food for a lot of people. This farm has been amazing. We even just talked after our tour, and Bruce and Beth are just awesome people. So if you're ever in the area, come check out their store, come say hi to them. We're gonna keep doing these videos, and I will see you next time.